Hello and welcome to Adventures in Venueland, an EAMC podcast. This is your all-access pass to go backstage and behind the scenes with some of the brightest minds that cross the scope of the live entertainment industry. I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. We'll introduce you to some of our favorite people as we dive deep into the world of live touring shows and the venues that host them.
Today's guest is the Director of Marketing here for Climate Pledge Arena, Janice Jimenez. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Welcome you guys to Seattle.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so excited to talk to you because you've had quite the adventure. But first, we have to talk about Climate Pledge Arena and Seattle, right? We are here. This podcast may sound a little bit different than our other episodes, right? Because we're actually here recording live inside the Amazon Music Artist Lounge, which is super cool. We want to talk about that. But we are here for our EAMC planning meetings, the Event Arena Marketing Conference. We are making our plans for June of 2023. And the officers and our planning committee are here in town. And this is my first time in Seattle. What a cool city.
It's an amazing city. I love the city, even under rain, right? Like it's kind of got
there's
that
a
feel.
Vibe to it, right?
Yeah.
It's just, and it's interesting because the people, I just feel like there's something different. Sometimes you go to a city, it just feels like another big city, but there's a definite vibe to this town.
Yeah, there is the definite vibe. I mean, Seattle's definitely changed over the years. Like I moved here 13 years ago.
Okay.
And I fell in love with it 20 years ago. So it was a place I wanted to be, and it's changed a lot. And there's a lot of transplants, but we're always constantly trying to like involve people in the culture, what it's like, also getting new things, new ideas. But it's really, really been a really cool city to live in. And 13 years is a long time. I call it home now.
I think it's funny that you mentioned even in the rain, because maybe that's a benefit that Seattle has is almost every other city. People think of it and they think of it in an idyllic scenario. So you go to Miami, you're expecting sunny skies, beautiful beach. You go there, all of a sudden it's rainy. You're like, oh, what am I getting? This is not Miami. You go to Seattle, you're almost expecting it to be rainy and cloudy. So when you show up and it's that, you're like, okay, this is Seattle.
Yeah,
and then if it's
bad.
beautiful, you're like, oh, look at that. There's a sky and mountains.
Often you get both in the same day.
Yeah, exactly. I actually probably today when you guys were coming over here, didn't the sun come out? I don't know. When I drove into work, it was raining.
Yeah, it was starting to peek through the clouds.
Yeah, that happens a lot. And we actually get less rain than Atlanta. So Atlanta rains a lot more than it is in Seattle.
There you go. Facts right there.
Atlanta.
And we don't use umbrellas, FYI. So if you're using umbrella, you're a tourist.
Oh,
you just kind of deal with it.
Yeah, and it's not. What do we hear? It's not raining.
It's not rain. It's spit.
It's just spitting.
Yes.
It's just spitting on you a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what I've heard. It's like the rainfall level is actually comparable to other cities in the country, or even less. But it's just instead of like a heavy rain like you get in other cities, it's more gradual, kind of mist, for longer.
Yeah, it's the grayness that gets to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Sure.
We just started approaching it, so people are kind of losing it.
But in June, when we have the conference, it's going to be beautiful.
It's going to be beautiful. Climate change.
Yeah, right.
It's a thing. Our summer lasted until mid-October here, which is unreal. We had 80-degree temperatures in October. Doesn't happen. So we're going to have a good June.
Enjoy it when you get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
right,
for sure. For sure.
Well, obviously we're talking about climate. Let's talk about this place that we're in right now. Climate Pledge Arena. There's so much buzz around the country among people listening to this podcast, arena nerds everywhere, excited about this venue. And tell us about the venue and your role here. Yeah.
The venue we opened in October of 2021. I can't believe it's been a little
just
over
a year, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I started dating things 2023 and everyone said, oh, you didn't like 2022 much. And I'm like, no, I loved it. It's just gone by so fast. And it's been a great time getting this building up and running and having all the shows come through. I act as the director of marketing, so I deal with all of the local promoters and then all of our tours that come through, anything that's non-hockey related, non-Kraken actually related. So yeah, that's my role here.
So the arena itself, I don't know, we've talked with Rosie here in the past a little bit, but for the reminder, is the shell of it, the same? What is new? What has changed? Because this used to be the same. Is it the same space that Key Arena was here, right?
Yeah, Key Arena was here. But basically, our marketing campaign, is our hashtag is under our roof. So our roof has stayed the same. The venue itself is on, it's a national landmark, so it could never be torn down. So we're on the grounds of the Space Needle, the Armory, all of these things were here and built for Seattle's World Fair. Like, some of people will come out, take the monorail from the hotel. It's one stop. Everyone thinks it's super senseless. One stop. I get it, mono. Not just one stop, but also one rail.
Yeah, right.
But it's based off of they just celebrated their 60th birthday, and it was based off the monorail at Disneyland. So
really?
So if you see it, it's kind of like, would they ever change it? And I'm like, that's kind of the cool retro thing of it. The seats are a little like, you're like, okay, like this feels very 60s ish.
Also appropriate too that like the World's Fair, from what you read about it, was this kind of like introduction of new technology, new science, kind of like this wow moment, and so it's appropriate that in renovating the spaces, Climate Pledge Arena is sort of leading that charge with a lot of innovative stuff that's really the wow moment for the industry.
Yeah, definitely. I think Rosie knows the exact amount, but the amount of LED we have in this venue using technology is huge.
Megan from the Honda Center is here. She's part of our podcast team, and she's been walking around with such jealousy of complete green over the digital signage, right? Because she just been taking nonstop pictures because you guys have amazing digital signage.
Oh, we do. I mean, beware of what you wish for. It is a huge undertaking by our creative team and our digital team just to manage those billboards, because essentially the program they use, it renders out to over 500 places or spots where it's going to be, right? So trying to explain that to a promoter is always not the greatest.
Right.
So we always I actually just sent what that playback would look like to Cirque, because they want to develop all of the assets. So we're like, well, no,
here's
you
a
don't
spreadsheet.
You don't want to do all the assets.
Exactly.
Just give me the layers.
Yes,
Just give me the layers.
Give me all the layered files. And so that can be a challenge. And it is, but it does come out pretty amazing. So I do get that envy, so, we are a venue of innovation and rethinking how people do things, especially on the sustainability front, right? We're Climate Pledge Arena because we've taken the climate pledge. So over the summer, we'll have to correct what my statistics are, but our diversion rate of 94%. What does that mean? Because a lot of people don't understand it who don't live in this space. Is 94% of anything that's been brought into the to the arena in terms of recycling, plastic, trash. 94% of it has been diverted from the landfills. So we are recycling and being able to compost whatever we have here. So that's a huge way of thinking. And it's not just, our patrons, it's actually your employees. How do you engage them in doing those things? What makes sense? And it's really cool to see people that I work with. I'm really big in sustainability in my own personal life.
Yeah.
I try every day. I try. That's the thing. You just have to try.
That's what I hear, right? Making the effort is so much of the battle.
It's one thing, right? It takes, and then it could take you 2 seconds to separate this from this. That's it. And that's all it needs. And people will come up to me and be like, is this compost? Is this recycling? Is this plastic? Because we also take plastic film and styrofoam here that's turned into other things. And not a lot of people at home don't have that. We're very fortunate in that we have a service that does that. Actually do have a service here in Washington and other states, but not everywhere yet. But yeah.
So the roof kind of stayed the same.
Yes. Sorry.
No. That's all great stuff. So the roof kind of stayed the same, but everything under the roof.
Completely different. Yeah. It is a super interesting to have customers, patrons, fans come through and be very confused when they get in, because they walk in and they're like,
they think it's just been a remodel,
right? Or they think that their seats are up. I'm like, I don't because you enter on essentially the highest, our main concourse is what you would think it would be. And people will come in and they'll say, I need to go up. I'm in section no. We essentially you're always going down unless you're in the 100 or 200 level. Our seats are 1 through 26 on the floor. So it's really interesting how people are going to navigate it.
Yeah. Paul and I are walking around the outside and you wouldn't even necessarily know it's an arena from the outside.
Yeah, right. It looks like an art museum almost, or some sort of there's so much glass, there's so much modern feel to it. And then there's all this digital signage. It's almost, it doesn't have that typical boisterous kind of QB arena feel to it.
Yeah, I think that's what I love about
Boisterous
it.
and QB.
That's a
Very
new word.
technical terms, yeah. Architectural terms.
Is that IE or Y?
Yeah, exactly. QB.
Yeah, actually the glass that you saw when you were coming in, I forgot which side you came through. But that glass is original to the building. So they took it out panel by panel and saved it. And
That is
they've
wild.
repurposed it here. So it's really, really cool. I think on certain days on the north end of the building, we have a curtain that's usually up for kind of our lower bowl shows. And when they raise it, it's just gorgeous. One of our colleagues took a shot the other day, and there's some trees on the other side, so you could see that fall was coming. Yeah. It's just really, really, really.
And what do you do for the hockey games with the Kraken with the window?
Yeah, so sometimes they're open, sometimes they're closed. I think last year for the Kraken, they did have it lowered because it was an element of their show that they use for in-game presentation, and they projected on there. And then some games they're up and open. I think the original vision was that people could look through the glass and watch the game. However, there's a huge planter in front of it, so they would be stepping in the planter to come to the glass. We still see that, but
yeah, sure.
It's very climatey. You're just in the planter, kind of embracing
planter, it. Being one with nature.
One with nature. Yeah.
So have you been here from kind of the reopening?
Yeah, I started in April of 2021, and then we opened in October of 2021.
What has that year? It had to be just a huge, year of learning. Because so much of the time that was when normally you're on the ground building that team together, was pandemic time. So you open doors and here you go, right? You're launching, you're in your honeymoon period. And to get through that first year had to just feel really good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still can't believe that it has been slightly over a year that we've been here. It's changed so much in terms of, COVID and procedures and what we put out there. Like we just had a discussion internally of, when do we remove those guidelines? Like, do we remove them from our website?
Yeah.
Is that now? Is that a now thing? Is that a later thing? Are we coming back? Like, so, those kind of things. So trying to have to work through that. And then I feel like, I can't remember what show it was when it was that you didn't have to wear a mask.
Right.
Or the last show that you didn't, or event that we didn't have to have the verification, because that was a big thing here, right? Like we're in Washington, pretty safe state. We were the state that broke out, right? Like that.
Yeah. We just went to a bar last night that were requiring vaccinations. And
yes.
So it seems like, there is kind of the range of people kind of coming back and other people requiring and trying to be safe or whatever it is. But I'm sure it's interesting kind of transitioning out of that. What does that look like?
Yeah. So that's definitely been interesting. Right. And then it's also the volume in which everyone's coming back. I think Rosie will always tell us, this is not normal. This is not normal. The amount of shows that we're announcing that we're doing, and I feel like
we're
that's
seeing
everywhere.
that, but even at our buildings, most people are seeing that. But as a new building, I'm sure it's even more so.
Compounded, like honeymoon plus.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So that's the question, right? Is it honeymoon? Is it COVID? Combination of the two. I mean, we as a team, and I don't know how normal this is because I think people do ask us, like, why don't you automate it? But when we announce a show, often Pacific Coast time, we're announcing at 6, 7 a.m. We as a marketing team get on the phone, get on a call 30 minutes before, go through all of the assets, make sure nothing has changed, probably writing a press release because we didn't get it until,
You're lucky if you're getting that 30 minutes before.
Yeah, 15 minutes before that.
So we run through those things and it's like, 6:30 in the morning, getting that all up and going. Oh, and then, sorry, you have a show tonight too. So then you're running through the show and it's multiple times a week. So it is a lot, but feel like it's somewhat exhilarating, and those deep breaths are so essential sometimes that we're we're gonna get through it. Like we just had Dave Matthews on Friday and then Post Malone on Saturday. There's a hockey game on Tuesday, and then we have Lizzo on Wednesday.
And that's just a week.
That's just a week. And then Smashing Pumpkins on Saturday. There's a Kraken game Friday before.
It doesn't end.
It's never ending, but it's good, right? Like it's such a joy to see it come back. For
sure, because again, every time I find myself feeling a little overworked, I kind of go, oh, remember that pandemic? That sucked, right?
Right. Better be overworked in an arena than in a testing facility
you were.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like all the pivots we all had to make. I'm like, I don't want to do that again. Yeah.
So we are again under the roof of Climate Pledge Arena, but let's talk about the space we're recording in today, because this is kind of a treat. It's only our second episode we've recorded in person, right? We're all in the same room.
Yeah.
But this is the Amazon Music Artist Lounge. It's kind of like, you turn a corner and we see the little on-air light. By the way, you can check out some pictures on the Adventures in Venueland social media accounts, because Megan's been getting some cool stuff. But it's like a recording studio right here inside the arena.
Isn't it cool?
It's super cool.
Very cool. We feel like very spoiled and like we don't deserve to be in here, but what do you use this space for?
Sometimes artists will come through and they'll work, because again, Amazon Music Lounge, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones who have helped outfit this. This is
so you can do things specifically for Amazon.
Yeah. So they have someone who's dedicated to, he's a sound engineer. He works with the artist.
Cool.
Actually, Kane Brown
Sure.
did an episode here, filmed it, and recorded here. And that was something that we were able to capture and use on social. So, it's being able to get those artists in and do cool things like that.
Plus, it's just a beautiful space. So even if you're not using the recording studio, it provides this certain vibe, this very live events feel to it. And then you have this space where we're sitting now, where I'm looking around the room and there's, amazing photography books about the Flash and rock covers, and you've got all these guitar pickup buttons, and it's just the whole room is decked out for live events. It makes you just feel like you're in a studio.
Yeah, even when you walk in, there's like posters of old Seattle artists that have been here. It's really cool. It's an homage to music in Seattle.
Well, it's so cool. I thank you for having us here, and I know we talked a lot about the building. But let's talk a little about you, because some people know you as Janice, but some people know you as JJ.
Yes.
Right? It just kind of depends. You were saying on what phase of your life they knew you from.
Yeah, that is totally true. I think I got the name. So if you look at my resume, I started out at Honda Center as an intern. And I did it my 4 years of college. Essentially, I did a year abroad, but came back and did it again. And then I worked at Feld Entertainment, and my boss at the time, who's actually one of my most favorite people and my mentors, Kurt Schwarzkopf. He's the SVP of ticketing over at Ticketmaster now. He actually called me at the time. His daughter was like 4, and she watched some show called like JJ the Jet Plane, maybe.
Yeah. That rings a bell. Yeah.
Right. And I think like that week or something, when it dawned on him, we were in Milwaukee for Ringling Brothers, and I had gotten into a discussion with someone about settlement and what they owed, those kinds of things. And he said,
I like how you pause there. Discussion at settlement. I think we all know
a heated discussion about who owed who what. And he was there, and I didn't realize he was in the room, and he said, "Man, you just like fired it at him. You're like JJ the Jet Plane. I'm gonna call you JJ the Jet Fighter." That's where it came from.
So that's the real name. It's not JJ, it's JJ the Jet Fighter, Jet Plane. Yeah.
And then people think it's, some people think it's my name is JJ. I'm like, no, it's my initials, J and J. So so it is something that I left Feld in 2013-ish. I want to say, is that right? I don't know, somewhere around 2012, I think, actually. And I moved on to Cirque, and I was called Janice, and I kind of stuck through that. But this industry is small. Everyone knows everyone.
Yep.
And so like you run into someone outside of the industry, outside of your work, and they call you JJ, and it was like, what? So then it kind of sticks. And I'm here at Climate Pledge Arena, and a few people, I met Rosie during that JJ phase when I was at Feld. And so she knew me as that. And then our VP programming, I knew him when he was in Phoenix. So he knew me by that name. So it's kind of stuck, and I welcome it.
You mentioned that you started at the Honda Center as an intern. What kind of made you pursue that internship? Like, I guess taking it back when you were in college, is that something, live events? Is it something you fell into? Like, what was your kind of thing that led you to that building?
So I grew up in a city called Walnut, California, not Walnut Creek, but Walnut, small town. It's 20 minutes from Honda Center. I don't know, maybe it's 30 now. And then
45.
And like 25 miles from Staples Center, right? And like at the time, I'm like, what do I want to commute to? I went to Cal State Fullerton, which is really close to Anaheim. And but when I was growing up, I loved the NBA. I'm like, I love the NBA. I'm gonna live and die by the NBA. I love basketball, especially college basketball.
Love
and
it,
then
yeah.
I didn't want to drive to LA. And I'll be honest, I was not a Lakers fan. So I'm like, I don't want to work for the Lakers. And I'm like, I don't think I want to work.
What was your team? Do you remember
I
back
didn't
then?
have a team. I had a player.
Oh,
So
Who was it?
Who was it?
Mike Bibby.
Okay.
Mike
He played for
Bibby.
Yep. He played for University of Arizona in 1997. I filled out my bracket, my March Madness bracket.
You got an Arizona fan in here.
Oh, really? Okay, awesome.
Megan Ebeck. Put it lightly, Arizona
Yeah,
fan.
I see her face. She's like, yes.
She lit up, boy.
Yeah.
So I filled out my bracket. Mike Bibby was a freshman at U of A. I actually watched him play on TV during the McDonald's All-Star American game. And I'm like, I like that guy. I like how he plays. He's a solid point
He's
guard.
a baller.
Yeah.
He was
and
awesome.
then I had him going to the finals and I got made fun of. They're like, really? You're going to have a number, I think they were number 8 seed. Like, you're going to have number 8 seed. I was like, yeah, that's what March Madness is about. And they won it. And so he was kind of the player that I followed. He was not great after college. He got drafted to the Grizzlies, all the things.
Yeah,
but
sure.
anyway, so I didn't have a team. I had a player that I followed, and who's my team now? I've gotten back into the NBA. It's really kind of been something new again because I didn't like it for a while, but I wanted to be in it. I wanted to be behind the scenes.
Sure.
But my option was like, I'm not going to commute from Cal State Fullerton to Staples Center. Like, just that to me didn't make any sense.
Yep.
So I applied at Honda Center, I think when I was a freshman in college. And during that time, you were required, like the program that I was going into, you're required to do an internship. And I remember them telling me, yeah, but if you do it your freshman year, you can't do it your sophomore. You're just not going to get credit. And I said, I don't care.
Yeah.
So I essentially stayed there for 4 years. I did a year abroad, but when I was there, I'm like, I'll do anything. I don't care. I just loved it. Like, it was the energy. It was the people. It was so much to learn there. I mean, there were random things that I did. Like, I think one of them was help submit a bid for the World Badminton Championships, like, which to me was really weird. Or like manage the relationship with it was a kids club for, were they called the Storm? It was like the NLL. National Lacrosse League. So they were there for a little bit. Yeah. I mean, there was just a lot of different things and I kind of loved it. And I decided I don't want to go into the NBA. Like, talking with fellow counterparts at the Ducks at the time, I was like, that doesn't sound fun. That's not something I want. I like the variety of it. So yeah, I was there as an intern for about 3-ish years.
Yeah, and and this is the message to people, young people that are listening to this podcast and interested in getting into this industry, right? Is when you were there, you did everything you could do.
I did everything I could do because for me, it was like, I just want to learn. I want to soak up this knowledge. I want to know what makes it work, right? Because it just doesn't work for marketing.
Yep.
We need help we need box office help. We need operations help. If we're going to do something on site, we're going to need maybe the team a little bit. We're going to need all of these things. So I did guest services. I did premium services. I did group sales. I did marketing. I did PR, helped out a little bit at the box office, do one-off projects. And it was a time where it depended on the department. Like, sometimes they could pay me, sometimes they couldn't. So it's whoever had the budget at the time. So I would go on and off a payroll for like 2 years. It was like no pay, no pay. I was like very dedicated to it. And so I know it's an anomaly and I know it's rare, but I was really wanting to do it.
But it also lets you kind of trial run all those departments too. So I'm sure it's like you got to see, okay, I like this about this one, or maybe this is more of a natural fit. But then, like you said, it sets you up for the future to where now you have greater respect for what all those different departments do because you've been in their shoes and seen it from that side, which a lot of people don't have that exposure.
Yeah, I think a lot of that exposure, I feel like, has really helped me in my career today, in the sense that I like to think a lot about what is it that I'm doing and who does it impact and why.
Right.
And think about other people, but that's like a life lesson, right? Like, what am I doing that's impacting other people? And can I make the situation better?
So tell me about that jump then from the internship to almost 8+ years at Feld.
Yeah. So Kurt Schwarzkopf at the time hired me as their marketing coordinator, I think. So I was in a marketing coordinator role. So that was someone who just helped the entire team, office admin stuff. And pretty quickly, just because of the way that Feld moves, they needed help with promoters. And so I went from coordinator to manager at Feld within 5 or 6 months. And then after a couple of years, I became a director, and at the same time moved to Seattle, because at the time I was promoting events all along the West Coast, essentially, or the Northwest was really my focus, up in BC and Canada, and then here in Washington, Idaho, Oregon. And so I kind of just stayed. And then I went from Feld to Cirque du Soleil, kind of did the gamut of not just regionalized, but the entire country, North America, essentially. And
Still based out of Seattle.
Well, I did a year in Montreal.
Okay.
Yep. I lived in Montreal for a year when I was overseeing the marketing for the touring shows division.
Did you learn French at all?
I am not good at French. I knew a little bit, but when I studied abroad, I actually studied abroad for fun, but in Madrid, and it ended up being enough classes to give me a degree in it. So now I also have a degree in Spanish. So having that base of like a romantic language helps you learn other ones.
Sure. Okay.
Absolutely.
But
Latin based, you kind of pick up a little.
Oh yeah. And it's so hard. It's hard though.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wish I had learned another language when I was younger.
What was that adjustment like from Feld to Cirque? Because while there's a lot of similarities, they're also very different companies.
Right. They're very, very different companies. Right. And the way they operate. Right. So Feld is very much regionalized, where they had their promoters be experts in that market. Right. Like, which I thought was so smart. Right. Like they knew. And this is a little bit of what I feel like I liked a lot about Feld is you become that expert, you know, the ins and outs, you know, what makes that market tick. And so it was very much, and you got to know every single city, every single player, person in that market. And then with Cirque, it was more of like, you know, turn and burn, like turn through all of these dates. You did, you know, 30 dates, one tour, and that was it. Like, and then you would go on to the next one, and you did it. You would do an arena tour, or you would do a big top show, which are two different ways to market things, because you're doing 30 markets maybe on an arena tour. But if you're doing a big top show, you're doing one city, but you still have 72 shows to do. So you have to, and this was very much Feld thinking, in that the way that I was taught was, yeah, you have 7 shows. It's not one show, you have 7. So you have to market every single show. It doesn't stop at opening night. It's every single show needs to be sold out. So how do you translate that at Cirque when it's 72 plus shows sometimes? Right. Especially in like the Bay, right? So where they do those 9-week runs, and it's just a lot. So yeah, so very, very different, but being able to take those learnings and see how things function, and being able to, just a different product too, right? So
So from there you went to Intrigue shows.
I've done a lot of let's just not, there's been a gamut of things that I've done. I was actually talking to Marissa Dion about it at in Minneapolis, about like the contracts that I'd worked on, and one of the gentlemen, I worked on Intrigue shows, and they were someone who were looking to launch a product, right? So, and they wanted someone with Cirque experience, because he was like a music director at Cirque. Anyway, they wanted to launch a show. It was not a great experience. It's no longer.
Right.
We'll just
okay. Because they're not all home runs, right?
No, they're not all, but that's life, right? Like you give it and you see what happens.
And you learn, you know, you're kind of, this is what didn't work for this, and you know, you apply it going forward.
Right. And everyone's like, well, like, how does it feel? You know, you worked on like a couple shows that haven't done so well. I mean, like I did Ice Age on Ice and they were there they lasted one city, and then they cut the tour. So, you know, then that's right. I was a contractor when I was doing all these things.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So it's like you lose the work and you're done, and you move on to the next, or you don't. Right. So, I did that one. I think I worked on Shopkins. I don't know if anyone knows who they are, but they might still be successful. They're like
little tiny
miniature things that you could swallow and die eating.
The kids' toys, right? Yeah.
But you often learn more from those challenges or failures, right?
So,
you know, Ice Age on Ice, one show, but like you're probably learning more from that than if you go into a market, you sell out shows and it's easy, and then you pack it up, go to the next one. You know, you're really maybe not the ideal scenario because it didn't go well, but you probably, got more career kind of growth out of that than anywhere else.
Oh, 100%. Because it was really like that experience was really about, we worked a lot with the studios to figure out what we were going to do, or we were working with the toy company at the time. What do you want? What does this branding look like? Those sorts of things that, going through creative and marketing briefs, finding sourcing agencies, looking at work back calendars on when we need to launch things and freak them out a little bit, like telling them they were behind. And, dealing with all of those things is that essentially something that, when I worked for someone who wants to launch a show, it's giving them the reality.
Yeah. They may not want to hear.
Yeah. They don't want to hear that. Or they don't want to hear the cost. Like they think it's absurd or whatever it may be. I'm like, well, I'm just telling you what I know. And this is what I've experienced. So don't be in sticker shock when they come back with like $250,000 to build a campaign.
So one of the interesting things that you did was during the pandemic, when we were all scrambling, right? You did something with Hot Wheels and a drive-through event.
Yes. So I actually did a couple of things. So
okay.
The Hot Wheels situation, I was with, I can't remember. Sorry, Eric and Ken, if you're listening. I don't remember. It's like Family Fun Holdings now is their company. But they were two gentlemen that came from Feld, from the motorsports side of things. They brought me on board to launch their Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Live event, which we launched in, I think, 2018, maybe.
Okay.
I honestly, pandemic years, I don't know.
Yeah. Right. We all
what is yesterday? Yeah.
But they launched Hot Wheels Monster Truck Live in Edinburgh, Texas. And they brought me on board to help them market it and run their front of house for them. It was a super small team. I think there were 2 marketers for the whole thing. I mean, it was really, really small. And kind of just did everything with them, kind of like I did at the Honda Center. I was like, yeah, whatever you guys need me to do, I don't care, I'll do it. So marketed shows for them, ran their front of house. So traveling with them and being there to work on their crash zone experience, pre-show stuff, like all of these things. So really got to know them really well. And then pandemic strikes and they're like, what are we going to do? I guess I should say Ken and Eric had another partner that they did Magic of Lights, which is a drive-through light show experience ahead of pandemic. So they were doing this in places like Foxborough and Ottawa, like big, huge empty fields and areas. I think they did it actually in Fontana one year prior to the pandemic. And I think Ken had gotten the idea of doing, why don't we do like a Hot Wheels drive-through thing? So I did that with them. They ended up going to Ontario. I was there for 54 days straight. We had one day off. And it was a drive-through experience of Hot Wheels, trucks, cars, all of these things. I can't remember how many were on display, but you just drove through. It was like a museum of cars and trucks. And so it was really, really cool to do. And we did that there in Ontario we opened the day after Thanksgiving, I want to say. And then January 13th, I think, is when we finished. Then we went to Six Flags outside of Atlanta. And then we went to Foxborough, Massachusetts, outside of Boston. So I worked with them on that whole experience, getting it launched, being front of house for them, running all of their ticketing and merchandise operations in cold ass weather. Awful, raining sideways. But I was like, I'm working. I'm so happy.
But you're working, right?
I'm working because while we all waited, I'm like, I cannot not have income, and I can't rely on whatever the stipend was. So I actually did Instacart delivery. So I delivered groceries for April, I think.
Yeah,
April,
we all did what we had to do to get through it. Right?
Yeah, I delivered groceries. You guys, I recommend it for fun thing, maybe to make like $30 an hour. Yeah. But I did that for 6 months.
I feel like you uniquely have dealt with so many intellectual properties. There's so I mean, Feld alone has
that's true. It is true.
Has Disney and Marvel and endless different ones, but you've touched on Hot Wheels, you've worked with Cirque. I mean, I think there's not a lot of people that deal with those, and also not that many, whereas a lot of lot of those are very different than each other. They have different requirements. They sometimes are very micromanaging, I'm sure, sometimes very hands off and kind of trusting. And what's that kind of like? I'm sure a lot of people listening maybe don't have that experience, or they only see it from the venue side where it's very, oh, you can't, change art like this because, whatever, Star Wars or Marvel is going to get mad at you or something.
Oh, right. All the time, right? Like, so understanding what those nuances are and where they're coming from, right? Like Disney was awesomely, like they
have it down. That's where most of us learned brand control is working on Feld with a Disney property.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone does. Like, like probably when you were doing a meet and greet, I remember this at Feld, like you couldn't serve certain food at meet and greets for Disney.
Sure.
It was like you couldn't do sugar, you couldn't do these things. You couldn't have, if like say for example, Mickey was going to be there, you couldn't have Mickey's face on cookies because there's no way Mickey is going to be there and also have his face on a cookie.
Oh,
right. All kinds of stuff.
Yes, correct. So like those learnings have translated into other partners or brands, like how they want to be, their perception and like ratio of characters to letters, all of those things. Yes, like all the things we have here, it all makes sense, right? Like people want to stick to this brand and what's important to them. And I feel like a lot of us that's kind of making a resurgence now, right? Of like what people's brands are.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely been interesting. And I'm trying to think of like what a hell story has been, but I've never had anyone tell me I ripped down art because of something. Not yet anyway.
So. Well, not yet. The day is young.
Probably helps too in your current role. You're at Climate Pledge Arena. You're working with a massive brand like Amazon,
yes,
who probably has a very specific vision for their partnership with you all. So having that kind of experience on how to work with brands, how to work with maybe two different goals, and how do both of these companies get done what they need to get done,
right,
but collaborate together and not step on each other's toes.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is like, especially for us, for an arena, you have to want to believe in the mission, right? I think that was my appeal to this job, essentially. I wasn't looking at the time, and I told the folks that I was contracting with us, I wasn't looking. Like it would have been smart, right? Because this pandemic, like I should look for a permanent job, but it was really the mission about it. Over the years, like I would say the last 5 or 6 years, sustainability has been a really big thing for me. Like I was saying earlier, like what are the little things that I can do to make an impact, right? Like in anything in life, right? Like saying hi to someone on the street, super small, but you can make their day. Sustainability, sorting your trash, or thinking about who you purchase from, or do you really need this? Does this need to be overnighted? Like those sorts of things are things like I feel like living that brand in my work life is also super important because it's that balance of the two. How do I carry it over?
And it's infectious, like even the smiling, saying hi to someone, they kind of, oh, that was nice, I'm going to do it to the next person I see. Same with sustainability. Sometimes I'm at a friend's house or they're at my house and they see I'm doing something differently and, oh, that's weird, you're using a reusable K-pod or something. I'm like, yeah, it saves me a lot of money. I'm not trashing all these, little K-pods or something, so I think sometimes people don't really think about it. So whenever you're able to make those little impacts, it spreads.
Oh yeah, it totally does. I mean, I'm not ashamed of it. I will dig through our trash and sort it properly at work sometimes. Like I will pull out, I will pull out plastic and just be like, no. I even have a little bin next to my desk that says plastic film. So people will like drop their plastic film in there and then they'll ask me, like we actually did for Post Malone, we did a tattoo parlor station. And so Kaya on our team was developing this activation, and she was talking to me about, she said, so, for their setup, they have the tattoos, so they have the backing and then they have the cardboard and they'll have, paper towels and water. How do I dispose of those things? So then like, I love that she asked me that.
Did you even think it through?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, so many people are going to get to that point and they're just throwing the trash. That's going to be the last thing they think about.
Right. Exactly. And actually our fans are awesome that come to events. They know, but I feel like we're a city that has really
part of the vibe of the town, right?
Yeah. And it's been around for a while. I will say that I think in Portland, Oregon, I was at a show there. I was doing a show for Feld. So this was, 10 plus years ago. And everyone would stare at the trash cans because it says compost, landfill, recycling. And people just stare at
They just stare, right?
They just stare. They're like, which one's what?
Yeah.
What's compostable? But like, and there's things that like people don't know that are compostable. Like, okay, well, take the time to like ask the question, right? So really trying to like lean into that brand of sustainability. So
Beyond sustainability and in your personal life, one of the cool things that you're involved with is the F Factor.
yeah, so it's actually the Ruby Room. Now they've since changed names.
Okay.
So I work for a nonprofit, and during my contracting years, I was able to contribute a lot more time to them. Worked in office, all of the things. So they actually have their mission is really to empower youth through fashion. So one of the things they started out as they would do fashion workshops for foster youth. So really focused on foster youth because it does say a lot. You don't really think about like what you wear actually tells you how you feel, right? Like if you're wearing something nice or something you feel good in, you're going to be confident and that's just going to exude your behavior, right? With foster kids, they walk around with a plastic bag and move from home to home. And they don't have anything more than that, or they shop through a secondhand, although secondhand is cool now. They'll shop through like someone's ratty things, right? Like it's not what you want to do. So I worked with them. We would do workshops where the kids would come in and they would get different like life lessons. And it would range from ages. I think we did an older one. So I think they were maybe 16 to 21. At 18, you foster out. You age out of foster care. And so we had some career counselors come in, talk to them, and then after all of their experiences, we work with local organizations or local retailers to provide clothing to them. So we would just buy it from the store, like Old Navy, or source all of these things for them. And they would come and shop and pick out 3 or 4 outfits for themselves and then get a duffel bag to put it in so that you're not going in a trash bag. And we would, and then sometimes we can give haircuts. So they would give them haircuts and get them prepared to go into the world. So that's one component of it. And the other is, since I started there, they acquired Ruby Room, which is a local organization that provides formal wear to low-income youth at no cost. So they have over 3,000 dresses, and then several hundreds pieces of menswear that we have that people can come make an appointment. They're paired up with a personal stylist and they are given the royal treatment as they come through and find a homecoming or prom dress or whatever that special occasion may be. So I've actually stepped down because of things that have been going on here, but try to remain active in it. But I was on the board as a board president for 5 years ish, I think. I can't remember. Yeah. It's been, so that's
busy. A lot of stuff going on.
Yes, a lot of stuff going on.
We are so excited to be coming with the Event Arena Marketing Conference in June. Our registration details will be opening up sometime in probably December, right?
Yep.
Is what I'm hearing. That's what we're planning out today. And our meetings we got to get back to meetings here in just a minute. But I just thought that the first time that I think we met was 10 years ago.
We won.
In Vancouver. Right, it was you, me, Dustin
team
Turner,
building.
Vanessa Cromer, all-star.
That's a stacked team. That's a stacked team.
And in Vancouver.
Yep.
Cheaters.
I can't remember the woman. I pulled up the pic. Actually, once in a while, Dustin Turner and I are still very, very good friends. And once in a while, I'll send that photo to him of us winning and telling him, have a winning day.
Yes.
Love it.
Well, it's a winning day for us to get to talk with you. Before I let you go, I want to hit you with our fast 5 quick questions, just looking for your instant response. First, do you remember your very first concert?
Boys to Men, Honda Center.
There you go. How about your favorite concert?
Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds. It was a benefit concert here at McCall Hall.
How about people are visiting Seattle? What's the one food that you got to try while you're here in town?
Crab, because I love crab.
And it's also fresh here, right?
Yes.
It's also good.
Yes.
What's one thing you have to see? Always there's a Space Needle, right? But what's one thing that you're like, oh, you know what, you're here, you should go see?
Yeah, what the locals maybe would recommend. That's not maybe as obvious.
I guess it's a do thing. Ferry ride.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, take a ferry ride to Bainbridge Island. 30 minutes, walk on, walk off. It's awesome.
Very cool. Last question for you. What is the theme song to your show? Right? There's a TV show where reality cameras follow you around all the time, filming your life. What is the song that plays over the opening credits to the JJ show?
Oh my God. I wish I knew this question. It's so hard because I have a different song stuck in my head and it has nothing to do with this because it's been stuck in my head all morning.
What's the song stuck in your head? I got to know.
It's really dumb. It's a Girl Scout song. It's like,
Girl
but
Scout
actually
song.
it makes sense. It's make new friends. And then it's like make new friends, keep the old ones. One is silver,
the other is gold.
And I was singing it all this morning.
Well, there you go. I kind of
there
like
you go.
that. I kind of like that. I think that works. Hey, if people want to follow you or reach out to you or check out Climate Pledge Arena on social, what give us some plugs.
Yeah. J Jimenez 10 is my Instagram. Janice Jimenez at LinkedIn for LinkedIn or J Jimenez at climatepledgearena.com. Please reach out. I love conversation. I love helping people get into this industry or not. So, let's chat. I love it.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Make new friends, but keep the old.
Yeah.
Right? That's how it goes.
We can't wait to come back. I mean, one, we can't wait to see more of the venue because this is kind of like our first little step into the excitement, but also to be back here in June and have so many other people be joining us and seeing the beautiful space.
Oh yeah. I do some pretty good tourist guides, not off the beaten path guides.
There we go. Hey, and again, thanks to everybody for listening to Adventures in Venueland. Remember, you can subscribe and find more episodes wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We'd love your 5-star reviews so you can help others find us. Until the next adventure, I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Adventures in Venueland is a side project of the Event and Arena Marketing Conference, a nonprofit organization bringing together people in the field of live entertainment to discuss marketing, publicity, and sales trends. Find out more at eventarenamarketing.com.
Audio editing and mixing by Camille Faulkner.
Design and digital advertising by Megan Ebeck.
Copywriting and publicity by Samantha Marker.
Guest booking and brand strategies by Paul Hooper.
Guest research by Dave Rettelberger.
Marketing strategies by Paul Hooper, Megan Ebeck, and Samantha Marker. Thanks for joining us. Until the next adventure.